So, I wanted to take a few minutes and talk to everybody about something that I find is very important and I think often lacking in our world today. And some would argue that what I'm going to talk about is what makes us human. But I think more importantly, don't look at it as if I'm attacking what makes people human, but more that it's something that we need to focus on. Um, I think it needs to be more pronounced. I think that it would help very well. And I think I'll start out by talking about conversation. You see, at least in America, I can't speak to the rest of the world, but here in America, we often speak in response. And a lot of times, we don't think about what we speak before we speak it. Being someone like myself who is often called an overthinker, I think about everything. I try to filter. Filter is such a negative connotated word. I don't really like using it, but I'll use it for now. What I say and how I say it. I because it doesn't really filter out what I want to say or change what I want to say so much as it makes it more presentable. So I don't really like calling it a filter, you know. But I think that it's important that we take a better stance at thinking before we speak. In essence, controlling our emotions. Oftentimes, we end up hurting people really bad and not even realizing what we're doing because we don't think before we speak. Or, better yet, think before we emote. The Native Americans, they used to, or at least some Native Americans, I can attest to reading about the Lakota that that was a tradition that they actually found it to be deeply respectful to think about what was told to them, especially if it's an elder, before they speak. It was very polite and very respectful to have that pause because the person speaking knows that they are being heard. This is going to tie in a little bit to my last video because being heard is very important. When we don't listen, it's very disrespectful. And especially, like I said, I know from American culture, we often don't listen. We are very dismissive in our culture, and that is a very bad thing. This may happen everywhere. I'm not trying to demean specifically only America because I don't know. I've only been to Canada outside of America, and that was like twice, maybe three times. And I was a kid, so I didn't pay attention to that kind of stuff nearly as much. But the real point that I'm wanting to talk about is controlling our emotions. There is so many people that don't take that step to try to maintain an even keel. Look, you will never always be able to maintain even keel, but it is very important to be taken seriously, to maintain an even keel when talking about something that's serious or an important topic. And being overly emotive during those times where you're trying to project yourself can lead to all manner of misinterpretation. Myself, I'm going to use my mom, hi mom, as an example. There's a lot of times that she thinks I'm yelling at her when really I am loud. Like anybody who's been around me in person, they know I am loud. So when I get excited, and I often do, I'm a passionate person. It spills out over. So when that happens, people can think that I'm mad at them, or I'm yelling at them, or I'm demeaning them. I don't know what's being felt. I just know that it can create a negative feel to the conversation. And it happens everywhere. And my mom just voices it. Other people may not voice it. You know what I mean? Like they don't want to like create an even deeper problem or whatever with the situation that they think is already inflamed. Now, that being said, we've got to take the time to not just throw our emotions out there. We can't just regurgitate those feelings that hit us all of a sudden, because what if we're wrong? What if our emotions are wrong? What if we took a word that was said and made it so horrible, so terrible, that it corrupted the whole concept? And more often than not, in that moment, our brain shuts off when we take that the wrong way. We stop listening even more. If we weren't already not listening, we now stop listening even more, and now we're on the defensive in a conversation that was never meant to be combative in the first place. So, and it goes beyond that. Like, there's a lot of people that have never been taught how to control their emotions. It's difficult. I get it. Not everybody has been meditating for 20 years on and off, but still 20 years of meditation. A lot in my early 20s, because I was a very, very, very angry person. And in order to get control of that, I used a lot of meditation to get deep inside of here and get control of it. And so it can be controlled, but it takes a lot of effort, especially if it's your nature. Like in my case, it was my nature to be angry. I'm not going to tell you that I've beaten it. I still angry a lot inside. I just don't let that. I don't allow that to overfill and flow out into the world like I used to as easily. Obviously, I am more than happy to use my anger if I feel it warranted, but I think about that first. But please don't mistake me in thinking that I think we should stop being full of emotion, like Vulcans if you're a Star Trek fan, you know. I don't think that people should ever stop feeling those things, but just that they control their reaction. And it does take work, and it takes effort to gain that control over those emotions. My personal experience, what is very important is that we don't let that emotion cloud ourselves. Like if we feel that emotion like coming in like a tidal wave, remove yourself from the situation. Don't let that tidal wave of emotion ruin things that you have, because that's more damaging than if you say, look, I'm getting really upset right now. I need to walk away. I need to walk away for a minute. Let me come back to this in a few minutes. Let me cool off. I'm going to speak to another situation. When I was going to UGA, there was a class that I was in, and the professor had used me as an example without my permission or my prior knowledge that this was going to happen. And it was a class about race and learning how, broadening our horizons into what really is going on in the world with race in America, especially. And also bringing to light the wondrous wellspring of knowledge from multicultures that we have at the same time. But it made me look very, very bad. I was one of a very few white people, even smaller amount of white men in this class because it was a women's studies class. And it was like on a Thursday or a Friday, and I took the whole weekend to think about how I was going to react. I was furious. But I checked myself. The very next day that I had class, which had given me a couple days to think about it, before class, to be respectful, I called the professor out of the class, and I talked to the person, and long story short, because I'm running out of time with this video, the person actually saw my point of view, and whether or not it was because the person knew that they were going to get in trouble or not is irrelevant to me. I don't really care. But they apologized to me there, and more importantly, rather than allow me to continue to look like I was a racist in the class, the person apologized to me specifically in front of the class. And had I just blown up and blew off the handle and potentially gotten that professor fired, what service would that have really done anyone? It really wouldn't have done anything, because I don't think that that was the intention of the person or of the professor to make me look bad. But the person did. And those things are going to happen in life. And that's another thing we don't take the time to realize, is that we often will fly off the handle and make things 10 times worse. Whereas if we just stayed even keel and asked for that time away, and yeah, sometimes you got to tailor that response to somebody. Like, I hate it if you start an argument with me. I don't care where it is. I'm going to argue it. That fire, that passion, And I mean like a heated argument. And it's in public. I'm going to argue it in public. Well, everybody's going to hear, because I am loud. I am just a loud person. My whisper is your normal talking, most of you. And then it makes it even worse if that tailored way to try to calm me down is dismissive. Once again, not being heard, not allowing my points, my feelings to be heard. And you go, shh. Oh, let me tell you, that's not a good way to respond when someone is trying to give their side and they don't feel you're listening. But anyways, I hope that this has helped you in some way. And if anybody of you that views this has any questions about how to try to start maintaining that even keel emotion, if it interests you or whatnot, please feel free to DM me, talk to me, and we'll figure something out, and I'll tailor it to you. But anyways, everybody, thank you so much for looking. I love you guys. You guys are wonderful. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful weekend, and I look forward to seeing you soon.